Another Friday it is, and yes, it is another time on the program Engineering and You, where we create in the young ones out there the necessary sparks needed for them to choose career path in the fields of science and engineering. The program is Engineering and You right here on OGTV, the People's Telly. I am Dominic Agbaya Yohanko, saying welcome to this week's edition of the program. Don't forget that the program is sponsored by Prince Engineer Yemisi Shilon FNSC and powered by the Nigerian Society of Engineers Abeokuta branch. Of course, from the conversation segment to the quiz of the day to the personality of the week, all of these are geared to inspire you, to ginger you, and to encourage you to choose career path in the fields of science and engineering, because these are actually the jobs of the future. Now, let me tell you a question for the day before we go on this break. The question for the day is: polarization effect in a cell is due to dash. Polarization effect in a cell is due to what? What is the answer to that question for you to stand a chance to win our prize? Call us on the number that will be displayed on the screen, answer the question correctly, and also ask our guest a question or questions bordering the fields of science and engineering, and the prize would actually be yours. Now, let us go on this short break. Yes, the break is for us to meet our guest for today. He's in the studio with us, and when we come back from this break, the conversation is going to begin. It's still Engineering and You right here on OGTV, the People's Telly.
Engineer GBENGA Adetokunbo, DAIRO,
is a graduate of civil engineering from the prestigious University of Lagos and later proceeded to the famous Imperial College, London, where he obtained a master's degree in engineering. Completed his youth service in 1984 at National Open University, Lagos, and Abuja. In 1991, he obtained a master's degree in business administration from Kingston University, United Kingdom. Engineer DAIRO is a corporate member of the UK Chartered Institute of Highways and Transportation, 1991, and a member of Nigeria Society of Engineers, 2005. He was public transport consultant to the World Bank in the Lagos Urban Transport Project between 2005 and 2011. He served as Director of Public Transport at Lagos Metropolitan Area Transport Authority, LAMATA. Between 2011 and 2016, he was consultant to the European Union delegation to Kenya, Nairobi. Engineer DAIRO is consulted for and advised many governmental and multilateral institutions and agencies in several jurisdictions across the world, including Oman, Indonesia, UK, Netherlands, and Qatar. Amongst his many professional accomplishments are the successful implementation of East London Transit in London, the Bus Rapid Transit BRT system in Lagos, the first and sub-Saharan African and recent establishment of the Department for Transportation in Nairobi, Kenya. When completed, the light rail network he initiated in Lagos, starting with the construction of the Blue Line Metro Rail project, will forever positively alter the public transport landscape of Lagos. Engineer DAIRO is currently the Commissioner for Transportation in Ogun State. He is happily married and blessed with children.
There you have it. That is our guest for today, Engineer GBENGA DAIRO. Of course, he's a civil engineer, and most importantly, he is currently the Commissioner for Transportation right here in Ogun State. He's somebody that I can say has played or has actually practiced in the biggest of sins that you can think of. Is He's he's not a local player, rather, I mean, in the field of engineering, but a big player as far as engineering is concerned, because he has practiced this this profession in the international scene. It's a pleasure having you in the studio with us, Engineer GBENGA DAIRO. Well, what you're going to be doing basically is to inspire and encourage young ones out there to pick career choices in the fields of science and engineering. And I am so sure that we have gotten the best person to do that this evening. Now, tell us, how did it all begin? What ignited your passion, your interest in engineering?
Good evening, viewers, listeners. It's my pleasure to join this program this evening. And I want to thank especially the sponsor of the program, Engineer Shilon, for her commitment to this particular project. And of course, the Nigerian School of Engineers, Abeokuta branch also, for supervising and superintending the program. So it's a pleasure to be here. I've been practicing engineering now for about 35 years or thereabouts. In my time, I studied, I had my secondary school education here in Nigeria. And thereafter, of course, I proceeded to the University of Lagos for my engineering degree. We were one of those sets of people, I may say, were educated just after the colonial presence in Nigeria. And therefore, there's a lot of colonial influence in the way we were educated in the 70s and in the 80s. At that time, there was a need, of course, to develop the country, because we were just emerging from, we were becoming an independent country. And therefore, resources were required in the development sector in our country, and therefore, specific institutions, I think, were established to begin to develop talent in various areas of development in Nigeria, and engineering being one of them. So those of us who had affinity for subjects like mathematics and physics and the sciences were basically guided into perhaps engineering or even medicine. And those who had affinity and ability in the humanities were moved into the law professions and so on. So that is how I was more or less shepherded in the area of engineering. I was talented and good in mathematics and physics, and therefore I was able to secure the necessary qualifications to enter the Faculty of Engineering at the University of Lagos. So I entered engineering that way. But of course, engineering is a lot more than that. And since I graduated as an engineer and I began to practice as an engineer, I began to understand really the dynamics of what should propel people into the profession other than academic ability. But now, that's my story.
Now, looking back, any regrets?
None at all. There have been no regrets, mainly because of my own personal disposition. The academic talent tended to merge with my interest in helping the development of humankind and humanity. And that's what engineering does. Engineering is an application of the basics of science, and then developing in a way that it can become accessible to all humankind, whatever the sphere of the field might be. So the chair you're sitting on is an engineering solution. To put on the clothes we're wearing, engineering has gone into it. The most recent example I can also tender is the issue of COVID, which you're all familiar with. A lot of scientists and researchers went into preparing the vaccines and so on, but at some point had to be produced on larger scale enough for the entire world to be able to access it. And that's an engineering feat on its own. Of course, we're all familiar with rockets going to the moon, the aircraft we use from one place to the other, the vehicles we drive. So engineering is everywhere in humankind, human society.
So you are proud to
I'm extremely proud to
be in the
profession.
Now, let's also tell you that you have the opportunity to be part of the conversation, but what you need to do is call in, answer our question correctly, and also ask our guest a question. Don't forget that the program is sponsored by Prince Engineer Yemisi Shilon, FNSC, and powered by the Nigerian Society of engineers. Yes, we'll be expecting your calls. Now let us look at the aspect of engineering that you have chosen for yourself, which is civil engineering.
Sure.
Tell us about it briefly, its contribution to national development, and how lucrative, what are the prospects in this?
Well, civil engineering is basically the discipline of engineering that pays a lot more attention on the well-being of all of us. So buildings that we all need to live in, for example, is a civil engineering matter. The fact that we need to move from one place to the other, transportation, civil engineering is involved in building the roads that we all apply to move from one place to the other. The water, the potable water that we all have in our homes, for example, it's a civil engineering matter. The ideology behind it, the technology behind it, the design of it to make sure that water is accessible within our homes is a civil engineering issue. The area of even power supply, because whilst it's an electricity issue, but there are various bits of infrastructure that must support it before we can actually find ourselves in a situation where we are now, that our homes are lit, for example. So every aspect of our existence, to make it comfortable, to ensure that we're in a position, whatever our role is in society, to perform effectively, civil engineering has a role and a part to play in that.
So hardly do we live in a day and not be touched by the role of a civil engineer.
In whatever form it might be, whether at the most sophisticated levels, such as this studio that we're in, or at the basics of, in fact, having to prepare for yourself a room where yourself and the family can stay. Whatever the degree of sophistication behind it, some degree of engineering is involved.
Now, it inevitably means that civil engineering has a lot of prospects. I mean, because if every aspect of our lives are shaped or touched or impacted by civil engineer, it means that it is lucrative.
Well, I'm not so sure about how lucrative engineering is in comparison to other spheres of activity these days. But you can make a decent living as an engineer. And you've touched on that particular point. There is no person, no human being that will not require the services of a civil engineer. Because as I've said, you have to move from one place to the other, and therefore the transportation system is one that we must rely on. You must have a roof over your head one way or the other, and therefore an engineer, a civil engineer, has been involved with that. We need to, of course, even in the farming processes, production of food, delivery of water to our various homes, whether you're doing it through a government or public potable water network, or in fact you're drilling your own facility in your own home, there's engineering involved. So there is prospects for it, because there is no way any one of us will survive without the services, the input, and the part to be played by a civil engineer.
My guest is Engineer GBENGA DAIRO. Okay, we have a caller, Dari from Mowe. Dari, good evening. Dari, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Can I speak to Engineer DAIRO?
Yes, I'm listening.
Yeah, evening, sir.
Can you raise the volume, please?
Can you please speak up a bit?
Yes, I can hear you.
Speak up a bit, Dari.
Yes, I can hear you, sir. Hello, sir. Evening, sir.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Sir, I'm one of your boys in Lamata that work with Yavi. So I just want to appreciate all everything that you have done for us in Lamata. Just want to say hello to you, sir.
Thank you. What did you say your name was again?
My name is Dari.
Oh, Dari. Thank you very much for those kind words. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Dari. Thank you so much. Prospective engineers, prospective students of engineering and science, please call and answer our question for the day, and also ask our guests a question for you to stand a chance to win our prize. Now let us look at, my guest is the Honorable Commissioner for Transportation in Ogun State, and of course a civil engineer. He is Engineer GBENGA DAIRO. Now let us look at engineering really. Let us look at the role engineering plays really as far as our future and then our country is concerned. STEM is regarded as, science, technology, mathematics. These are jobs for the future. How do we nurture our children to pick up career path in these fields? If you have the opportunity to offer advice or to suggest a national policy on education that would promote the study of science and engineering in our school, what would that be?
Well, all professions, whatever the profession might be, whoever wants to pursue a particular profession should have some degree of interest, I would say, in such a profession. The task that the educational system has is to help identify the talent and the abilities of all of our children, where they can excel if they apply themselves, and then to find a way of guiding them in a way that will assist them to pursue a career in the area of specific talent and provide an opportunity for them to be able to do so. So if there was a national policy that we want to comment on, it would be that for all of our youngsters, certainly at secondary school level, we should have a situation whereby every young Nigerian, starting between the age of 11, 16, is exposed to enough variety of professional opportunities so that they can decide for themselves. And even those who are their guidance can quickly identify for them where it appears as if they have the talent to be able to function effectively within society. And some of them will see engineering as the area of expertise, or future expertise, because they will see that they have a tendency to want to make things, to want to do things that will make life easier for society. They will have the academic ability to support that particular interest. And that is how you begin to mold and guide people into a profession in which they can truly excel.
Okay, we have Jonathan on the line. Jonathan, quickly. Okay, calling from Ikorodu. What do you want to answer our question?
Yeah, I'm ready to answer your question.
Come again.
I said the question that I want to answer.
Okay, do you want to answer our question?
Yes, can give me any question. I'm not sure you have a question. Can give me any question. I will answer you.
Okay, go ahead and ask Engineer DAIRO a question.
Okay, good day, Engineer DAIRO. My name is Jonathan.
Sorry?
Good day, sir.
Oh, hi. Hello, good evening.
My name is Engineer Jonathan. I'm coming from Ikorodu.
So what's your question? Go ahead. They can hear you.
Okay. My question goes like this. You said, I want to ask a question. As a civil engineer, are you listening to me, sir?
I'm listening. I'm trying to hear. It's not very clear, but I'm doing my best.
I'm a civil engineer. I'm my own engineer that's running because I'm a site engineer also too. Are you listening?
Okay, I think we can hardly hear.
What do you think the question was?
I didn't get it as well. But as we coast home, would you say that engineering is a path for the faint-hearted? I mean, we are in a world of shortcuts. Everybody wants to attain their goals using shortcuts.
It's not a path. It's not a path it's not a path for a shortcut to easy success. It's a profession where you succeed based on the number of years of accumulated experience that you may have gained over the years. So you may graduate as an engineer, you have to go through a training period, you have to be exposed to various areas of project work, for example, design work, even contracting work, site work, in the case of civil engineering, before specific responsibilities can be entrusted upon you. So it takes a while, basically, before a while in the profession before you can be competent enough to say that this profession is one which I've now mastered.
We want to thank you so much, Engineer GBENGA DAIRO, for your time with us in the studio. I'm so sure that in no small way you have inspired our young ones at home. He is a civil engineer and also currently serving Commissioner for Transportation in Ogun State. Thank you so much for your time with us. Also want to thank you for staying tuned to the People's Daily and of course watching Engineering and You. For the question of the day, the answer is formation of hydrogen bubbles. That's the answer to our question of the day. And of course the question of the week, our take-home question, thermoflax prevents its loss through convention by what? Thermoflax prevents its loss through convention by what? Send your answers to our social media platforms and we are going to get across to you if you get our answers correctly. That's the size of the program. Thank you so much for staying tuned. And of course, we won't be leaving you without serving you our personality for the week. Enjoy and do have a wonderful weekend ahead.
I'm the chair of gynecologic oncology at Roswell Park. I also direct the Center for Immunotherapy of Cancer at Roswell Park. My specialty is gynecologic oncology. I take care of women with cancers of the female reproductive tract.
Adekunle Odunsin, simply known as Kunle Odunsin, received his medical degree from the University of Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University, and his PhD degree from the Imperial Cancer Research Fund Laboratories, MRC Weatherall Institutes of Molecular Medicine, John Radcliffe Hospital in Oxford, United Kingdom. He completed his residencies in obstetrics and gynecology at the Rosie Maternity and Addenbrooke's Hospitals, University of Cambridge in the UK, and Yale University School of Medicine in New Haven, Connecticut. His fellowship in gynecologic oncology was at Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center in Buffalo, New York,